Yes, sir. Now it is on. Now we can start. Yes, respected Professor Anil Gupta, sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor K.R.S. Sambhasiv Rao, sir. Our former HOD Professor L.S. Sarma, sir. And all the participants, teachers, scientists from the different institutions. It gives me a great pleasure to all of you welcome on the great day of the international webinar on towards inclusive innovation and network-based entrepreneurship. I, Dr. Amit Kumar Singh, on my own behalf and on the behalf of Mizoram University, welcome you all. First and foremost, I would like to welcome Professor Honorable Anil Gupta, sir, who is one of the top most renowned professor of management in the world, who was awarded Padma Shri by the President of India for the management education. And in India, very few professors are awarded Padma Shri for the management education. Professor Gupta is fellow of WAS, World Academy of Science and Arts, NAS, INSA, and currently he is working as CSIR Bhatnagar Fellowship in the grade of Secretary to Government of India. And Professor Gupta is also visiting professor IIM Ahmedabad after serving more than 40 years in IIM Ahmedabad. Professor Gupta is founder of Gyan, Srishti, and Honeybee Network, and National Innovation Foundation, which is an autonomous organization under the Ministry of Science and Technology. And Professor Gupta established one gallery of this National Innovation Foundation in the President House. He was Executive Vice President for National Innovation Foundation for a long period. Professor Gupta is such a great personality who lectured hundreds of the top level of organizations in the world, including FAO, World Bank, and the renowned University of Oxford, University of Harvard, and MIT Boston. In organizations like Procter & Gamble, General Electric. So, and I proudly can say that Professor Gupta shared lecturing with two of our former presidents, Honorable Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam ji and Honorable President Sri Pranab Mukherjee ji. So today, I feel proud in welcoming such a great personality. And one side, if we will see Professor Gupta is a very highly academic, and another side, we will see. So he is linked to the grassroots innovators. And he helped the grassroots innovators building a link to the academics and the industry world. Professor Gupta conducted more than 43 Sodh Yatras, considering and visited all parts of all states of the India. Even I remember that he visited the remote villages of the Mizoram, which we never visited, and tried to link the grassroots innovations to the industry and academics. Professor Gupta works as a EC members, academic council member, so many universities and board of directors of the all renowned government organizations and banks. Professor Gupta achieved this Academy of Management USA Award for Humanistic Lifetime Achievement. And he was also awarded on Dr. Honoris Causa by the San Martin University, Peru, Doctor of Letters, Central University of Odisha, and so many awards. Within a short span of time, it is very difficult to introduce Professor Gupta. And in 2001, Business Week has given him the title of one of the star personality of the Asia. Sir, I feel honored, proud to welcome you, and I also feel proud to be your student. Sir, I welcome you on this great occasion of international webinar on this towards inclusive innovation and network-based entrepreneurship. My sincere welcome to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Arya Sambhasiv Rao, sir, who is a great philosopher, academician, and scientist. He not only worked in India, but he worked in so many countries, including the USA, Japan, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, Panama. And he has written more than 20 books and more than 300 papers. And one can understand the popularity and integrity of his paper that his total citation is more than 13,000. And this international webinar and a lot of milestones for the development of university, he is committed to that. And he always humbly guide us do this, that, this, sir. And this is the his vision, how we can establish Mizoram University on the international platform and link such type of great personalities like Professor Gupta. Sir, I am humbly welcome you for your great concern and great dynamic guidance for the development of our university and on this great occasion of international webinar. I would also like to welcome our former HOD, Professor L.S. Sharma, who is also Sir Gupta's student, and he always support us and guide us. I would also like to welcome our this ICT in charge for the webinar, Mr. Suraj, and Dr. Lal Ropui, who is looking an IRF related works in the department and assistant professor in the department. I would like to welcome all the professors, scientists, especially from ICAR and CSIR, who joined for this international webinar. And I heartily welcome to all the participants once again. So now I would like to invite our honorable professor and my teacher, Professor Anil Gupta, sir, to deliver his speech. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Amit. You have been very generous with the introduction. There was no need. Friends, I'm very happy to see that there are participants from all over the country and some maybe from outside. This shows the leadership and entrepreneurial quality, academic entrepreneurial quality of Amit and his team at Mizoram Department of Management Studies. I compliment the entire team for mobilizing such a large group of very interested faculty members and other scholars who together with me will discuss today how we can develop new models of network entrepreneurship without compromising on inclusivity of our innovations. So let me first define a few terms very clearly. It may also be useful to mention that Honeybee Network, set up 30 years ago, essentially gives voice, visibility, and velocity to the people who have solved problems through their own genius. Ralte and Silo from Mizoram got award from President of India through National Innovation Foundation and Honeybee Network. We have had Shodhyatras in Mizoram and have scouted many innovations from this region. However, the fact remains that there are some structural barriers which come in the way of unleashing the full potential of people and their places without developing new models of innovation and entrepreneurship. So Honeybee Network recognizes the unsung heroes of our society, gives them the support of the network, and then they get an identity. This is how we work. I will like to mention in the beginning that there are two competitions that Honeybee Network is organizing. Ignited Mind at honeybee.org, September 15th is the last date for children, creativity and innovation, and HP and Kriya at honeybee.org for all others, faculty, teachers, parents, farmers, anybody can send their entries till September 15th. October 15th, which is Dr. Kalam's birthday. It is in the memory of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Children Creativity and Innovation Award and HP and Kriya Award. 15th October is the birthday of Dr. Kalam, with whom I had the privilege of teaching at IMA, apart from working with him when he was Honorable President even before that. Dr. Kalam was an extraordinary human being, And therefore, we decided to celebrate and commemorate his memory by organizing these competitions. Kindly do share this with your colleagues. Now, how do social innovations emerge, and where does the network entrepreneurship fit into the model of social innovation? So there could be a market failure, there could be a state failure, there could be a civil society failure, which leads to certain social needs remaining unmet or unnoticed or unsensed. Several reasons can be there. Transaction cost can be high, affordability may be low, accessibility may be low, and acceptability may be low, availability may be low. There are solutions available, but they're not available in Mizoram, in Tripura, or in Dhimaji, in Assam, or wherever. Now, that means that there are persistent problems, persistent unmet needs, which lead to three kinds of outcomes. One is social protest. Protest can be violent or non-violent, Gandhian in spirit. Obviously, violent protest does not lead to any progress, and we must all abhor and condemn such approaches, because these are not constructive approaches, whereas Gandhian approaches are constructive approaches. These protests can lead to change many times, or sometimes lead to inertia. Open innovation model can be one of the ways in which the ideas can be obtained. Gandhiji in 29 July 1929, he had announced a competition, open competition for redesigning the spinning wheel. And he had announced an award of 7,700 pounds. 7,700 pounds, which was a 1 lakh rupee. Today it will be more than 10 crore rupees. And he gave the boundary conditions. So open innovation, mobilizing ideas from anywhere, is one way in which the inertia can be overcome. There are, of course, other ways. But there is one process which leads to inertia, which is learned helplessness. People think that there's nothing going to happen. How can I change the world alone? And this is a cynical attitude. This is a low self-esteem. This is a downward spiral. So I would not recommend that one should ever feel helpless in the situation. There's always a chance. There's always a hope. There's always a way out of the situation in which we are, and can generate new ways of solving problems. So essentially what we are trying to do is, we are trying to institutionalize social innovations. And we must recognize, therefore, that distributed creativity implies distributed and network leadership. What are the indicators of distributed leadership? And one indicator I would like to mention to all my colleagues here, and I hope that you will, in your universities, in your institutions, in your colleges, monitor this. And this is the download to upload ratio. Last week, if we look at all of us look at ourselves, last week or last month, how much of MB or GB, megabyte or gigabyte did we download, and how much did we upload? India can't become a world leader in knowledge society by only being a largest consumer of global knowledge and not producer of global knowledge. So the projects of the students, for example, can be uploaded. We have a platform called as techpedia.in, which has 200,000 information of 200,000 Indian projects, technology projects by 550,000 students from all over the country. Why do we do that? Because we don't want any young person to do what has been done before. Originality precedes innovation. So I hope that all of you will kindly monitor your download to upload ratio and try to see that upload to download ratio become more than 1. We upload more than we download. And that is where we will share our ideas and will become, therefore, a leader by sharing open source content. Now, there are 3 dimensions of frugal, sustainable, inclusive innovation for development of entrepreneurship, network entrepreneurship. Frugality, there is let me give you a very simple example. You may have a sachet of a tea in your hand, small sachet, plastic sachet. It is very frugal, 1 rupee. Very inclusive, poor person can also afford it. Is it sustainable? If you calculate the cost of collecting this piece of plastic from over 700 districts of the country, you will realize how non-sustainable it is. Now, frugality is not enough. Inclusivity is also not enough. Sustainability by itself is not enough. We need to have all the 3 in our product and services to be able to generate. And these are the values which will make us achieve this. These are the 8 values that Honeybee Network propagates: equity, environment, ethics, excellence, empathy, efficiency, and enterprise. And of course, all of these are converged through education. We're all educationists here, and therefore we need to bring in these values in our classroom, in our interaction. Now let us look at how inclusivity takes place. There are 6 dimensions of inclusivity: spatial, sectoral, seasonal, social, skill and knowledge, and structure of governance. Let me explain each one of them one by one. Spatial dimension implies that if there are regions which are remote, there are regions which have low population density, there are regions which have undulated topography, mountains, valleys. In such regions, markets are much less developed. People in Mizoram are witness to that. People in Northeast are witness to that. People in parts of Jammu Kashmir are witness to that. People in some parts of Eastern India are a witness to that. So when spatially certain regions get excluded, any policy, any innovation, any institutional design that reaches such places and overcomes the exclusion of such regions will be inclusive of spatial exclusion. So one region of exclusion is spatial exclusion. Certain regions get excluded, and our policies and programs and our innovations must be as such that can reach them. I will give you some examples of how some people have tried to do that. Sectoral exclusion. You have a lot of bamboo in Northeast, but how many of us in the plains, in the other parts of the country, have bought products made of bamboo in the last week or last month or last year? If we don't buy things made by people working in pursuing certain sectoral occupations, then naturally money from our pocket will not go to their pocket. Handloom. Almost every household in Northeast will have a handloom. And yet, how many of us have purchased handloom made in Northeast? So naturally, there is a sectoral exclusion. People working in khadi, handloom, bamboo, many of these sectors suffer because of lack of technological change and also because of lack of support from the consumers in the larger markets. Seasonal or temporal exclusion. Currently, large part of India is having floods. Now, it's very difficult to deliver milk to the infant, medicines to the sick people, books to the children during such period. So temporarily, seasonally, certain regions get excluded. Hailstorm, flood, drought. There are many other reasons. Snow in certain parts of the country. Rohtang Pass, the valley there gets closed for 4 or 5 months. There are many parts of the country which get cut off because of the snow in those areas, winter. So seasonal exclusion. Social exclusion doesn't need any explanation. All of you know, on the basis of gender, other things being equal, women tend to get much lesser share of resources, leadership positions for that matter, opportunities, and of course, the platforms to articulate their own vision of society. So gender is one. Then there are, of course, caste, tribal, and other identities which tend to get ignored on account of social exclusion. Skills and knowledge. Certain kinds of skills are excluded. Certain kinds of knowledge is excluded. So, for instance, tree climbing as a skill may not be as much in demand now. Or there are many other skills of metalwork, crafts. Beautiful crafts are made in Northeast. But that skill, if there is no market demand, slowly and slowly young people will not acquire it. They will not learn it. And that skill will be eroded. So there is exclusion because certain skills are no more in demand. So those people who have excellence in those skills get excluded. And of course, the structure of governance. Sometimes the policies and institutions are so designed that they exclude certain regions with some of the constraints that I mentioned earlier. Take the example of allocative principle of one extension worker for, let's say, 800 or 1,000 people. Now, one extension worker for 1,000 people in mountains will have to cover huge area, maybe 50 square kilometers, maybe 100 square kilometers in some parts. Whereas in plains, it will be one village. Now, there is such a improper, such as unscientific, such an irrational allocative criteria. Isn't it obvious that where population density is low, the allocation should not be on the basis of population criteria, but on the basis of geographical criteria. That for every 10 kilometers, 10 square kilometers, or for every 5 square kilometers, you will have an extension worker. So the norms of allocating PS primary health centers, schools, and other facilities sometimes, not in all cases, but sometimes, are not in line with the endowments of a given region. That can lead to exclusion. So that is a systematic, that is an institutional exclusion. By design, by the way nature of institutions have been designed, certain people tend to get excluded. So that is another. So these are the 6 ways in which exclusion can take place. And we need to find out the methods, the approaches, the innovative ways in which we can overcome them. So one of the ways we found in 1997 when GYAN was set up, Grassroots Innovation Augmentation Network, SASTI was set up in 93, Honeybee Network was set up in 87, 88, 89, and GYAN was set up in 97 and NIF in 2000. When GYAN was set up, this was the triangle which became the basis of overcoming some of the exclusion that I mentioned. We realized that innovations could be in one place, entrepreneurial culture could be in another place, or entrepreneur may be in another place, investment may be in third place. How do we bring them together? So there are 2 kinds of transaction cost most of you are familiar with: ex ante transaction cost and ex post transaction cost. Ex ante transaction cost is searching information, finding supplier, negotiating contract, and executing the contract. Ex post are enforcing the compliance. That means whatever contract we have signed can be implemented. Side payments, the terms are not suitable anymore. COVID-19 has come. We may have to extend the credit period. Third is conflict resolution cost. And of course, redrawing the contract if conflict cannot be resolved. Now, these costs have to be incurred no matter what we do. And if we don't incur these costs, if we don't take them into account while building our innovative models of institutional design, of supply chain, of providing support to the innovators, then the weaker partner will get excluded. Smaller innovators will get excluded. Grassroots innovators will get excluded. The small teachers who have done some innovation in a school will get excluded. So we need to recognize that investment may be with a person who may not know about innovation. That is why databases help in reducing the search cost. Incubators help in sometimes negotiating the cost, negotiating contract. But we need to think of all these costs, ex ante and ex post, simultaneously to be reduced if we have to make this triangle possible. This is a golden triangle. No matter where you go, no matter which part of the world you are, you will have to meet these costs of bringing formal and informal innovation, technological and institutional educational innovation, economic, social, cultural, ecological enterprise, or intellectual, material, and financial investment, mentoring, support. All of these are required to be done. Now let us look at how do collaborative or network innovations and entrepreneurship emerge. More diversified and complex the application domain, higher is the advantage of the collaborative network. So let me first begin with an example of, let me stop the presentation here and give you example of educational innovations. Educational innovations, there is a challenge today. Online education, just now before we started the program, it was mentioned that some of the colleagues did not have sufficient bandwidth. Now, if professors or VC or directors, people so renowned and endowed, do not have adequate access to the network, imagine the fate of the children in interior villages who do not have a smartphone or do not have internet. How will we reach them? So recently in a webinar, we talked to 4 teacher innovators, social innovators, who tried to find 4 different pedagogies for reaching the children who did not have, mind you, hardly 25–30% children of their parents have a smartphone. 70% did not have in this survey that was done in parts of Gujarat. So Ashok Bhai and his colleagues did something very remarkable. Look at how the network emerges in social innovation. They talked to the cable operator. Cable operator said, yes, I'll be happy to beam your program content to the children because I have got network in 20,000, into several hundred several villages where at least 20,000 children can be reached. They talk to the studio fellow. We have to make the content, good quality content. Can you lend us a studio? We don't have money to pay. He agreed. They talk to the cameraman. They talk to the other teachers, made content. And what happened? They could reach through cable TV. Cable TV doesn't require internet. Cable TV doesn't require smartphone. They could reach the far corners of Banaskantha district in this region and overcome the constraint of a smartphone.
Excuse me, sir.
Kindly switch off your phone, mic, please.
Actually, sir, I just want to interrupt you. Sir, your slide is not visible. Are you showing the slide right now?
No, I have stopped the slide.
Okay.
I'll stop this. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I just want to confirm that one.
Yeah. I will restart them at a little later. I want to give the 4 examples, and then I'll come to the slide again.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So Ashok Bhai did what is remarkable, which is possible to be done all over the country, wherever cable TV networks are strong. We can reach educational content to the children by using cable network and bringing the content to the children. And we can give a phone number where they can call back if they don't understand something. Mr. Balaji Jadhav from Maharashtra did something interesting. He said that, look, why can't I use conference call system? So he divided children into different groups, and each child, from having a feature phone, not having a smartphone, will call a particular number, and he took them all in the conference call, and he had teaching on phone system where without smartphone, he could reach using conference call system, children of primary school and convey them the content which he wanted to do. Second very interesting example. Third, Ratan Singh, what did he do? In Kutch, he realized that there are many villages which have a public address system well distributed in the village. So he asked the permission of the village council, can I use your loudspeaker? Of course, you can use our loudspeaker for the children. And through the loudspeaker, he beamed the lessons so that children could just hear them and practice. And he gave them a number at which they could call for clarifications. What has he done? He has included those children who would have been excluded if we relied only on internet or online education requiring smartphones. Please remember, when we design programs, as Gandhiji said, Antyodaya, the last in the line, must be kept in front of us while devising solutions. So if we keep the last in the line is who does not have internet, who does not have smartphone, who may have only a feature phone. That is the person, that's the family which is last in the line. So we must devise innovation. The fourth person did something, Ghanshyam Bhai did something interesting. He made posters, flex banners for class 1 and 2. For such tiny tot, we can't sit before the phone, even if you have a phone. They will go around, they will play, and then they will like to come back and study. So he pasted these banners in different parts of the village on the wall, and asked children to read them by using a stick one by one. And there was the classroom reached the children. Children did not have to come to the classroom. So COVID-19 constraints requiring physical distance, requiring hand washing, requiring masks, all of these were observed without, at the same time, excluding the children who were not able to afford a smartphone or net connection. So these were social innovation. I define social enterprise as an enterprise where the cost of providing goods and services is not recovered from the user fully or partially. To me, that is a social enterprise. And in this case, children did not have to pay anything at all. In each of this case, as you can see, teachers had to make a network of actors, teachers, other teachers, studio, the milk collection center where they pasted the banners, people who allowed their walls to be pasted with banners, the loudspeaker person, the audiovisual system, the village chief who had to permit that use, and so on and so forth. Everybody had to work with several actors to bring these ideas into fruition. Now we will go into something different. We will discuss how can market-based enterprises deal with the same question, and therefore this will be another lens through which we will look at network entrepreneurship. Pooling the inventory. How do we do that? So many of you, particularly women, when they go to buy their dresses, where there are several shops of women dresses in a row, men can wear the same design, same combination, but women would like to be different. They want, as far as possible, to buy things which are different from others. So you go, the lady buyer goes to a shop. Till she's outside the shop, these shops are competing with each other in a market. When she enters the shop, the shopkeeper shows her dresses. She says, this is nice, but if sleeve could be like that, collar could be like that. And the shopkeeper goes to a neighboring shop and brings a design which matches the expectation of the buyer. Is that what you're looking for? And she says, yes. What has he done? The inventory of shops in a lane which were competing with each other has been pooled. Any shopkeeper will be competing so long as the buyer is outside. Once the buyer enters any shop, they will not hesitate in borrowing a suit or a dress from anybody else in the lane and satisfy the customer. The customer is no more of the shop, the customer is of the market. Great idea. Pooling of inventory can help generate a network-based model of entrepreneurship, where with the small inventories, you can serve much larger range of customers. With a smaller inventory, shops may be very small, but they have a range, they have access to the inventory of other shops in the region, so that the customer doesn't go unsatisfied. Very interesting model, evident in our country, can be scaled up, can be used by the startups, can be used by the upcoming inventors and innovators. Second, competition and cooperation together. And this is very interesting. I'll first give you a historical example. During 18th century, mid-18th century, there's a place, Lyon in France, known for silk looms. Even at that time, the demand for silk fiber was very fashion conscious. So the demand will, when one loom's demand will go up, other looms' demand will go down. Now, there was a tradition that when they had to train their younger generation, their sons and daughters into weaving, they would not do it themselves. They will put him or her as an apprentice with somebody else whose demand will go up in future. Now, what has happened here? In marketplace, these weavers are competing. In learning space, they are cooperating. My demand is low, your demand is high, you are getting more profit, I'm getting less, but your son or daughter is apprenticed with me or with someone else. I don't mind it. Now, this is the kind of competition and cooperation together. More and more startups have to realize that merely by competition, we cannot achieve the goal that we want to achieve in our life. We will have to cooperate. Let us look at the cyclical cooperation. The cyclical cooperation is when there is a cooperation and competition. So in South Italy, backwater of Europe, there is a very large automobile part hub. And Charles Sparrow has written a very interesting paper on small firm networks. You can search it on the net. Very interesting paper. So what happens? Each entrepreneur bids for very large orders. So let us say I have bid for headlights of car, say 500,000. My capacity is only 20,000 per year, but I have to supply 500,000. What do? I call other manufacturers. Will you like to cooperate with me? They say, yes, we don't have orders. Our order book is empty. Why not? So till the order is completed, the other firms, other entrepreneurs become division of this lead entrepreneur who has got the order. He gets his entrepreneur rent and shares rest of the margin with other partners. Once the order is complete, they start competing with each other again. So cyclical, cooperation, competition, cooperation, competition. That's another model of network entrepreneurship. We should look at we have been taught that cooperation only emphasize shallow view of competition. There is ruthless competition, no competition. No, that's not true. We have not read the history well. Even today in our own country, in the garment industry, in many other sectors where they export units, bid for large orders, they also do the same thing. They cooperate with other manufacturers till the time they can fulfill the order. So in ready-made garment, this happens quite often in our own country, because you may have bid for a large order and your capacity may be less and the buyer may like to do that in a given period of time. What choice do you have then to cooperate? Next model is very interesting. Several individual manufacturers. There's a case where N.K. Dhawan and Mr. Goendy, and there were 5 friends who graduated from Indian Machine Tool Research Education Institute in Bangalore, and set up 5 different units for manufacturing CNC machine, lathe machine, turning machine, etc., which could achieve up to 0.1 micron surface quality. Very, very sophisticated precision tool. One marketing company, Micromatic Machine Tool. So manufacturing was individual, separate, but marketing was cooperative. So what happens to the customer? Customer gets the range of tools and machine devised and manufactured by 5 different manufacturers. He doesn't have to go 5 places to find these products and services. So small firm network, the startups can become, there's another model here. So the entrepreneurs can become franchisee of each other. So when I'm selling, let us say, hair oil and face freshener, and somebody else is selling immunity booster, herbal immunity booster, there is no harm in my offering to my customer the range of products, including the immunity booster, which has been manufactured by somebody else in my network. I can become franchisee of that person. That person can become my product. Customers larger choice. So there are several ways in which we can do it. We can either make a common catalog, pooled catalog of different innovators, and entrepreneurs can join together. These are the models that we will have to bring in future, because there is no way we are going to work. Now, how will these models work? One basic philosophy, very important, and that is empathy. You have so much knowledge, you have this much feeling, you only do this much of action. They have all become selfish, they all become self-centered. So it is very important that we realize that the problem that I am going through, somebody else also going through the similar problem. COVID-19 has put a lot of enterprise under stress. It's not that I am suffering, many other people are suffering. How do we share each other's pain? That requires samvedana. Samvedana is inner, inside me. Some vedana, I consider somebody's pain as intensely as that person feels it. It doesn't remain that person's pain, it becomes my pain. Through samvedana, I generate sayog and sadbhavna. That means I cooperate through this empathy. Because I realize that others are going through the same pain that I'm going through, let us cooperate. So network entrepreneurship essentially is an empathy model of entrepreneurship, which builds on this shared suffering, shared pain, and we are able to overcome inertia and able to generate solutions. Let me conclude by requesting you all to set up innovation clubs in your colleges. Innovation clubs should do 4 things. Search innovation, innovative enterprise. I gave you examples of so many enterprises, so many social and economic enterprises. We have to search them, spread innovations, celebrate innovation, invite innovators to the classroom, wherever you are, and sense or benchmark the unmet needs. Where is the shoe pinching? Where is the entrepreneur suffering? Where is the innovator suffering? How can we help that innovator suffering? Maybe they can help each other. Can I provide a platform to them, to all the innovators, to all the entrepreneurs? So the Department of Management no more will only do research and teaching. They will also do networking. They will have to bring entrepreneurs periodically to their, either through online or other mechanism, whichever are feasible at a given time, and help them to share with each other. That is our role. That's a role which most management departments are not playing enough. So maybe we should ask students to run these clubs. They can bring them together. They can sense the unmet needs. They can celebrate by bringing them together. They can spread the innovation. So I would request that whether you call them Honeybee Network Innovation Club or whatever club you call them, doesn't matter what name you give them, but these 4 functions are inevitable: search, spread, celebrate, and sense the unmet needs. So essentially, what have I discussed? I'm trying to discuss the blending of passion, purpose, process, performance through platforms. Honeybee Network is one platform. Techpedia.in was another platform. There are several platforms that we can create. And to remember what does it take, when we saw these root bridges in Meghalaya, we have showed the yatras. We walk in summer in hot places, winter in cold places, autumn in Himalaya. So we were walking in this place. We went to Nagret village and asked these people, why did you do this? The first culprit was culture. We want to do something different, something sustainable, something durable, something with materials which have low entropy, so to say, no waste. So the roots of ficus on both sides, rubber tree on both sides of the river seemed like rope. Oh, so that's something like technology. We can pull these. But I can't pull them alone. We needed group action, institutions. So technology is like word, institutions are like grammar, culture is like thesaurus. We need all the three. Sustainable ecosystem of network entrepreneurship will require technology, will require institutions, and will require cultural change. Only then this will happen. Let me conclude by saying that it has been great to talk to you all. I will be very happy to share, to answer the questions that you may have. I will also be happy if we can bring in a model of learning, leveraging, linking, and legitimizing these innovation systems. And hopefully we will remember that mind on the margin are not marginal mind, the book that I wrote in 2016 as a subtitle. So let me conclude. Creativity counts, knowledge matters, innovations transform, and incentives inspire. Not just material incentives, but also non-material incentives. Not just individual incentives, but also collective incentives. And the collective incentive is when we together help create network of entrepreneurs who will then be able to achieve what they individually will not be able to achieve. Thank you so much. Amit, we can have questions or whatever. I thought I should leave a little more time for questions.
Thank you so much, sir.
Many more things to share, but I will share in response to questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your very valuable and exciting lecture. Not only lecture, this is a blessing for us, sir, for such a great personality like you. Now, I would like to request Dr. Rajkumar Girdhari Singh, who is Secretary DRC in our department. He will handle the question and answer session, sir. Dr. Rajkumar Girdhari.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for the nice lecture. That we are fortunate that we are able to listen to such a nice lecture on this very pertinent topic. So there are a few questions which I want to raise to you. So the first question is from Professor Dr. Snehanshu Shekhar Chanda from Bangladesh. His question is, how can we improve something tomorrow on network-based entrepreneurship on today's experience of COVID-19, especially on Indian context?
Let me give a very practical example. In February, we did not have any COVID testing kit competence facility in our country. By mid-June, we could achieve 500,000 kit manufacturing capacity in a day. How did we achieve that? So there was a platform created. I mentioned to you that platforms are powerful means of achieving a network entrepreneurship. So a platform was created. 39 different entrepreneurs were invited who had the competence. Technology was shared with them. Some of them had already their own technologies. And they were only not given any money. The InBrick platform created by Department of Biotechnology and BioRec, Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council. InBrick platform brought 39 entrepreneurs together to manufacture these kits with only one assurance, that if they meet the quality standards, then these kits will be procured by government and distributed to different hospitals, facilities for testing. And if they wish, they could sell extra production to the private sector hospitals. So through public procurement and networking of enterprises, as recently as February to June, July period in this country during COVID-19, we achieve extraordinary output efficiency. Same thing happened to PPE manufacturing. We didn't have many facilities. And again, very in short time, many companies repurposed their production line. Those who were in garment or some other company, other products, they changed their production line, set up the facility quickly, and started manufacturing PPE. So personal protection equipment. Like that, it happened in the case of ventilators too. We had very few ventilators, most of them were imported. In record time, we created capacity to have high quality ventilators in the country. And today we are almost self-sufficient, and we can even export PPE and ventilators. So it is possible even during the COVID, not only possible, it happened during the COVID-19, that many cooperative modes of entrepreneurship, network mode of entrepreneurship, actually delivered the results. Alone, no entrepreneur could have met this requirement. That's very clear. Without network entrepreneurship, we could not have faced COVID-19 situation.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. Sir, next question is, I think that would be the continuation of the previous question, perhaps. The question has been raised by Dr. Rasmita Singh. And question is, what steps the manufacturing enterprises should take to sustain and grow in pandemics?
Please recognize that the supply chains have been disrupted. Although slowly and slowly, the online e-commerce platforms are to get into action and are supplying products. Slowly, recently now, they have been allowed to sell non-essential goods also. So slowly it is changing. But we must remember that for future, distributed manufacturing would be one way to save ourselves from the cost of supply chain. That means earlier we had a model centralized manufacturing, decentralized consumption. But we will have to go the Gandhian path, decentralized manufacturing, decentralized consumption. So we should have, and today with 3D printing and many other such technologies like power loom, you can have milk quality cloth by having power loom in a district. Same cloth that you can manufacture in a city. So there is no comparative advantage of a location when it comes to certain kinds of manufacturing facilities. The equipments are scale neutral and they are space indifferent. Doesn't matter where you locate them, doesn't matter how many units you set up, the output does not change, output quality doesn't change. So in such situations, when they are scale insensitive and they are space indifferent, we can go for distributed manufacturing, distributed consumption. That is the most resilient model of network entrepreneurship.
Okay, sir, thank you. So the next question is from Ankit Sen. What are the future scope for entrepreneurs in startups post-COVID-19 pandemic?
See, one of the things that we realized, while agriculture sector grew very very well, the tractor sales was more than 100% more actually, and many other sectors grew very much. The problem came in consumption. Hotel industry is closed, hostels are closed, the large consumption of large consuming units which consume a lot of vegetables and fruits and grains and milk and so on are closed. So naturally, the farmers have a tough time in selling their produce to the wholesalers who do not have very high demand from retailer or distributors. So what do we do now? The answer is distributed value, in situ value addition. In situ value addition. Either you set up processing units in different farms. I have seen in Mizoram units of wine manufacturing. Small farmers have set up wineries, red wine, they make good quality, reasonably good quality, and are able to, grape cultivation took off. Now, if they want to set up one unit and supply them all, it is not viable. The cost of transportation is so high. So when cost of transportation is high, you try to transport not raw material, but value-added material, for which you have to have distributed processing facility. Dharamveer has developed a multi-purpose food processing machine in Haryana, which processes the fruit and vegetable without crushing the seeds. In fact, he has a multi-purpose machine, which means that you can extract essential oil from the seed. Now, such machines have to be organized in large number of places. The farmers should not be required to sell raw material. They should sell value-added material. And slowly we will see that the agriculture sector will become more resilient. And in post-COVID phase, the supply chain, once you have value-added product, you can store it longer than the raw material, you know. So the resilience increases. More value you add in situ, that means where it is cultivated, higher resilience will come in the supply chain, and they can bear with the ups and downs in the demand. So there is a need for restructuring the supply chains in this sector, particularly in the field of perishables.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question is from Anand Priyadarshi. what is the difference between an NGO and think tank? How can we set up a think tank?
Well, basically, NGO is a trust or a non-profit organization. Think tank is a group of experts who deliberate, debate, brainstorm on the policies. So Honeybee Network is a think tank because it has brought very different expertise together and is able to generate policy choices. So when we require that COVID-19 needs, we discuss with our friends, our teachers, our network of innovators, and we generated various models as I've shared with you. It is not entirely my figment of imagination. It is many colleagues, Chetan Patel, Anamika, Megha, many others have helped me to look at these examples that I shared with you. And these examples were not part of one person's mind, but several minds which got together. So I would say that, yes, think tank is a loose, or it can be formal or informal group of people who are expert in their own field, who have their own networks, and they converge their networks to bring insights. Whereas Sashti or Gyan, they are NGOs. These are non-governmental organizations, individual. Individual organization will never have all the expertise required for achieving the goal. Network is the only way. One form of network is a think tank.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is from Professor S.K. Singh, Jiwazi University. Which one is more essential as far as entrepreneurship is concerned? Is it skills or knowledge, sir?
Very difficult to say that, because without knowledge, skill becomes repetitive. With knowledge, skill gets renewed every time. So when you have a skill of coding and you have knowledge of new technologies or new algorithms, you can make your coding more efficient. But if you just know coding and without having knowledge of different platforms, different languages, you will be doing a very poor job of what you do. You will not grow, you will not learn. So today, for example, with AI, artificial intelligence, the conventional form of coding has become obsolete because the program relearned itself and improves its understanding, its algorithm, as it processes information and data. So now you need to acquire that knowledge to be able to code better and make sure that your programs are smart or intelligent. They can learn from the user experience. User experience can be incorporated into the design of the code. So I don't think skill alone will help. In fact, many traditional skills are getting eroded because we did not help such a skilled person to acquire new knowledge.
I think most of us, I mean, not most of us, everyone will agree with your answer, sir. And that's a very thought-provoking and pondering to think about these two comparison. Anyway, sir, the next question is on given us by Lavanya Kalyani. Question is, technology is the only word highlighted today in the whole world, but how can we overcome the problem of cost, illiteracy, education in a country like India?
I gave examples of social innovations. I gave example of Ashok Bhai, Ghanshyam Bhai, Taran, of Jadhav, Balaji Jadhav, and many others actually who have, I earlier talked about Kamlesh Bhai. You know what he did? He designed a studio at his home and he spent his own savings into it. And then he has put hundreds of thousands of YouTube lessons, and they are downloaded in 70, 80 countries around the world. His consumption, single man university, just imagine, single man university. He has done so much. So therefore, we must recognize that the illiteracy or other problems cannot be solved only by large scale effort. We have to have large number of small change makers, small change agents. And we need to network. That's what Honeybee Network has been doing for the last 30 years. We found different innovators in different places, brought them together, created a new market for them, created new avenues for them to learn. Still, I would say the cooperation among the innovators is not enough as I would wish them to have. I'm not satisfied with the current level of cooperation among entrepreneurs or among innovators. To give an example, when it comes to illiteracy, you know, there are ways in which the teachers have, in different places, have realized that if they have to teach children different words, they should change the pedagogy. So one teacher said, when he takes attendance, the students will not say yes sir or yes madam. They will say CAT cat, DOG dog, MAT mat. So every child, while giving attendance, will have to speak one new word every day. Now imagine what a great make. Some words will be common, but some words will be uncommon. So children learn, say in a class of 25 children, they learn maybe 50, 20 new words every day. Every day. Attendance has to be taken every day. What a creative way. No expenditure. No budget is required. Just a new pedagogy. Like that, there are a large number of ways in which there's a database called as inshodh.in. It is a database of more than 15,000 teachers, innovations by teachers, school teachers, government school teachers, made by Professor Vijay Sherichand at IIM Ahmedabad and his colleagues. And Honeybee Network has helped him in building this. But this is a wonderful database of its kind. We need to build more and more databases of how people are solving problems of literacy, of education, and be optimistic. It's very easy to say a problem is so big, I am alone, how can I solve it? But I will tell you a story later as to how people sustain their spirit even in such times when things seem so depressing. And at the same time, we are finding so many people doing experiments and innovations.
Thank you, sir. So like innovation is certainly one thing that we all have to come up with. And the initiative that we haven't taken is really good for many and the country as such. Next question is on just a second, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question is from Kundrapam Devananda Singh. What are your thoughts on entrepreneurial intention as a factor of entrepreneurship development?
Well, intentions are not enough. Many of us keep thinking about new ideas for years and years and years and don't do anything about it. Ideas by themselves don't sprout seedlings. We have to sow the seed into the ground of practice, ground of experience. So I would say that intentions are good, but not enough. Intentions must be backed by sufficient practice, sufficient experimentation, sufficient trial, so that they can lead to some results. I have known of many innovators when they faced recently during COVID-19, some maize growers had a lot of maize, but there was no market. Earlier, a lot of people in the cities will eat roasted corn, but now people were not going out to eat. So what did he do? He developed a machine to make milk out of maize. Chief Minister noticed that, Dharamveer, same innovator. In my village, he went to my village in UP and demonstrated to my village people how they can make milk out of maize, how they can make sweets out of maize, corn, and how can they make many other products. So he widened the horizon of people. What did he do? He triggered many more people to become entrepreneurs. Intentions are not enough. We need to exposure, and we need a bit of a risk-taking attitude by doing experiments. And experiments never fail. Even if the results are not to our liking, we get some learning from it. So in that sense, experiment is always successful because learning is there, even if the results were not to our expectation. So I would say more and more experimental ethic should be propagated. People should take up more experiments. We should encourage students to do experiments. Doesn't matter. In fact, one of the projects in 2010 in my class on creativity, innovation, knowledge network, and entrepreneurship was on online pharmacy, 2010-11. Siddharth Shah was the student, among others, who made a presentation in my class. Today, he has the largest online pharmacy called as Farm Easy and gives full page advertisement on the first cover page of Times of India. How could he do that? From a classroom project, he went to the setup, the largest online pharmacy. I think these are ideas, this is possible. If we had not, he got A grade in my class because his idea was so much ahead of the time. He faced so much opposition from the Chemist Association. How can you do that? prescriptions are necessary, prescription must be seen physically, etc., etc., etc. And yet he succeeded finally to change the policy of the country because entrepreneurial strength that he had was so good. So I would say that the answer is experiment. Even if you fail, try again.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So we have to go beyond intention. Experience is required. Thank you, sir. So there are quite a lot number of questions. So with, if you permit, I'll take up some 2-3 questions more, sir.
Sure, sure, sure.
All right, sir. So next is from Shikha Patra. Her question is, sir, we have an NGO, and in our state and local area, there are many students they cannot reach to digital study. We help some students, but because of lack of fund, we can't help them. So how we can help them, and how we find the fund to help the children?
And my suggestion is getting more fund is important, but till you get that, try to form groups of students. So one student who has a phone, let the student have a group of 5, 6, 7, or 10 children around him or her, so that the educational content to one student can be delivered to others. I will tell you how innovations take place. We had pooled the content of class 1 to 12, open content. I can share with anybody. It's a free for all topics, for all subjects, all topics. And it was done through students. So I have a course, Shodhyatra. I told students that I will not take them to the Himalaya if they do not do this. So they had to do it. It was a requirement. And 200 GB of content, open source content was pooled. Now my problem was, and for 2-3 years I was struggling how to deliver it. So one day I mentioned this problem in the class, and one student got up and said, sir, don't you know about OTG cable? I said, no, I don't know about OTG cable. He said, sir, with OTG cable, you can deliver the content from pen drive to the smartphone directly. You don't need computer. You don't need internet. I said, that's great. Our problem was solved. Who solved it? Students solved it. I didn't solve it. I was stuck. So many times we should do what is called a reverse mentoring. We should ask students to teach us the ways of solving problems. We assume that because we are teachers, we always know more. We don't know always more. Students look at much wider content. They look at much wider information. They process information much faster than us. We are professors, we reflect on everything we see. They don't, they just quickly, they are this modern, the remote culture, where you change the channel in a second if you don't like it. They come from that culture of shifting channels, 50 channels in 1 minute. Now, such kids have also some advantages. Their focus may be less, but they are covered a lot of ground. So we should let such children teach us ways of solving problems. So I would suggest that Ms. Patra, you should try to get the children to solve this problem. Tell them that we have limited resources and we want to reach more children. How do we do that? And I'm sure they will suggest some ways, including forming groups and some other ways. There are high net worth individuals. Share your ideas on the social media, and sometime high net worth individuals, when they find your ideas to be good, will also join and support. Many of these teachers I give example of got support from society for printing banners, for delivering solutions, because they couldn't have done everything from their own saving. So funds will come if people realize that your intentions and actions both are in sync, more or less. We practice what we preach.
I think the answer has been noted by the participant, and that is a very good suggestion and answer to the particular question. So I'll combine 2 questions. So the question has been put up by Sinalai Kai. So you can answer this both questions together. So we talk about network-based entrepreneurship. It's encouraging. At the same time, we in the far-flung district like Ukhrul. So Ukhrul is a district of Manipur, sir. It's far from the capital city, where we have no access to network. What do you suggest for those who has no access market? So this is one. So second question, I'll come. The other question is from Costly Stone Kesher. What is your thought on colleges starting entrepreneur or innovation club supporting students, maybe financially, for example, loan at minimum interest rate or maybe zero to start their own business? Are there any colleges or university who have done this before? Yeah, so these are the questions.
Let me first of all make it very clear that there will always be problems where we do not have all factors of production in one place. This is bound to happen. This is bound to happen. So what do we do? Incidentally, before I forget, let me also mention that I wrote last night some of the ideas that I have shared. And those of you who want to read about it, I have shared with Amit, but I'm pasting the link here, and you can read this and send me the critique. Now, coming back to idea from Frugal that if market is not developed, and what is he making actually? Did he mention about what product they are making? Yeah, Mike.
Sorry, no SS, sir. Not mentioned.
Well, I would say that how do we deal with a situation where markets are less developed? How do we include regions where markets are less? In fact, my focus entirely in the first part of my lecture was how do we bring inclusive development where markets are weak? And even the state is weak sometimes. Bureaucracy is also not very efficient in such regions. Then what do we do? One way is, again, to network and find out which regions have nearby, have facilities to add value. Or we try to develop mobile facilities. You see, the problem arises in our mind, we are stuck with the fixed sedentary infrastructure. If I have to set up a unit, I think I should have an entire plant at my farm, whereas my production is not sufficient to run the plant even for 1 hour a day. So naturally, this infrastructure will become unviable and my unit will fail. So what do? There are two choices. Either I set up a plant at one place and transport the goods from everywhere, or I set up the plant, which is a mobile on a truck or a tempo, and take it to different villages to process different things. My feeling is that despite this such an obvious answer, I have not come across many mobile processing facilities in Northeast. And I don't understand why. So I would suggest that Mizoram University should submit a policy note to the Chief Minister and request them that unless and until you set up mobile facilities for processing cassava, processing fruits, processing vegetables, processing various things, there will not be any way in which our farmers will be encouraged to become more entrepreneurial. So we need to have mobile processing facilities. We need to have mobile cold chambers to collect these processes and to bring them to the nearby market where they can be packed and sealed and sold. So therefore, you cannot create packing facilities, sealing facilities in every village. So we need new models of distributed processing, centralized packaging. In some cases, distributed manufacturing, processing, and distributed packaging. Some of the technology, for example, sealing a plastic bag costs 800 rupees. Sealing machine costs only 800 rupees. So therefore, sometimes we can seal things in a small level at a small place, but we cannot. Sorry, just an urgent.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we need to be able to process through mobile facilities and sometimes even pack in decentralized level, packaging for food, 1 day, 2 day, 5 days, and then bring into the main unit where they can be packaged for months together. So we need to think of multiple stages of packaging, just like milk is brought to collection center, from collection center it is brought to dairy, and then dairy processes it and packs it for Tetra Pak or whatever have you. So we should think of different strategies for the region. And what was the second question?
Just a second, sir. Especially this is on online classes, sir. Colleges starting entrepreneur or sorry, not online classes, entrepreneur or innovation clubs. I mean, supporting students that may be financially or in
yes,
the
yes, I completely agree with it. And what we should do is whenever we set up such clubs, we should also invite high net worth individuals, people who have a lot of income, local trader, local investor, local real estate person, local contractor, people who have a lot of money, and request them that, look, some part of the income that they have, should not they invest in the ideas of young people. So probably the HNI, high net worth individuals, can be brought in contact with the ideas of the young people, and they have the freedom to choose whichever idea they want. It is not compulsory that they should invest. But this is the easiest method, short-term method. Otherwise, if we wait for government grants to come, sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Most of the time it takes time. It's not easy. So my suggestion is club must be set up to search, spread, celebrate, and sense the grassroots, the innovation and the unmet needs. I will strongly appeal that everybody who is participating, there are 465 participants, and I hope there will be at least 200 to 300 innovation clubs set up in the next month around different places, people at colleges and institutions where people are joining this. It's an admirable job what you all have done in bringing such people together. But follow them up. Ask them, how many of them have set up the clubs? How many of them have generated ideas of the students? And we will be very happy to incubate some of them in our incubator of Gyan and Sashti if we find those ideas are viable and feasible. We can even invest some money in the ideas. We have a partnership between Gyan and SIDBI, Small Scale Industries, the Bank of India. If some people have ideas which are mature and ready to go to market, Gyan will be very happy to invest up to 5 lakh rupees in those ventures. So let us test. You can test our intention by sending those projects, and then you share with everybody whether one of them got funded or not. If they get funded, we have made the point.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Looking forward to that, sir. Sir, let me take the last question. So the question is from Dr. Mohammad Mustaq Ahmed. Sir, how can local knowledge like crafts, meaning local vidya, be integrated in our streamlined undergraduate courses as well as PG level of study? I think this has been envisaged in New Economic Policy 2020 also.
How can the local knowledge?
Yes, like craft, local vidya, I term it, local vidya, the craft can be integrated in our streamlined undergraduate courses.
Yes,
and
yes. Let me give an example. We have a program called as BIS, Biotechnological Innovation Ignition School, where we invite undergraduate students, around 50 of them, for 1 month. This year we had to do the BIS online. When we did the BIS online, we shared with them the technologies of processing different local traditional knowledge of farmers, healers, and so on, gave them the protocols, they learned about them, and asked them to collect knowledge from their elders, their grandparents, grandchildren, grandparents, neighbors, uncle, aunts. And they were supposed to design the protocol for adding value. So a chemistry student, biochemistry student, management student can do a business plan for a local knowledge. How do we have many examples where local people have developed herbal pesticide. Just let me see if I have this slide. I can show you just in 1 minute the product that have been developed. Let me see. Yes. This was the machine that I was mentioning. Now here is the case. This lady we met, we found her in Champaran, Janki Devi. She had developed a herbal pesticide, local knowledge. We filed a patent for her. In our lab, we tested it. Now the step should be, then we gave her small support to develop this pesticide and sell it to the neighboring farmers to make her livelihood. So this is the simple thing that we can do. Set up small enterprises, experimental enterprises, do-it-yourself solutions. Undergraduate students can test a formulation, a crude formulation, do a small trial on pot culture and find out whether they are effective in controlling pest, disease, or whatever else that is there, and share it with the farmers, share it with the users, share with the kitchen garden people, and solve the problem. So I would say we need not only think of enterprises as enterprises which are market-driven, but social enterprises, enterprises which are do-it-yourself, open knowledge, open innovation. And students will enjoy when their solutions will be used by people. One of the satisfaction that our younger generation must be able to enjoy is how to be excellent, how to be relevant, how to be useful. How can our product, our work be used by people? I'm sure Every time when we solve a real problem, we don't become a better technologist or a better entrepreneur, we also become a better human being because we have solved a real problem. So I would strongly urge that this idea not be left at that. Please do go to techpedia.in. Look at how undergraduate students have done hundreds of thousands of projects, 200,000 projects have been shared. I'm writing this website here, techpedia.in. And we have also created another database, which undergraduate students can use freely. And that is called as gyan.org/patent.php. We have 0.8 million patents in open source. Abundant patents of US. That means the patents which are granted but not renewed. Now any entrepreneur can use it. Why have we done this? We are the largest provider of open source content in India, but certainly probably in the world. Our database is bigger than Wikipedia put together. So why are we doing this? We are doing this because we believe that open innovation is the way forward. Some of the people who benefit from our database eventually may contribute to the Honeybee network and help it grow. In the short run, we'll manage. In the long run, I'm sure somebody or the other will have the good conscience to say, well, we benefited from it, let us help it grow. And that's how the society grows. So many people share their local knowledge. Local knowledge can be a very powerful driver of small entrepreneurship in future. I have full faith in it. I will strongly encourage them to do that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. There are quite many number of questions, so we could entertain these. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening the participant and with this very important topic. And it's really a privilege for me. Like I get a chance to put question to you. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to call again to my colleague, Chodi, Dr. Amit Kumar Singh, for the next continuation of the session.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for handling nice question and answer session and answering very excitement. Before I will invite Dr. Lal Rupui for formal vote of thank, sir, I would like to bring in your knowledge. As you suggested me for Honeybee Network and one chapter in the Mizoram also, I discussed some of the state government officers and 2-3 MLA who is professor in our university, and they are very much excited with your ideas. And sometimes they will personally talk to you, and they want to take your ideas to the ground level in the Mizoram, sir. So we will.
Every MLA has, just like MP large scheme, there is also MLA large scheme. They have about 2 crore rupees or 5 crore rupees per constituency. Yes, and they don't invest it in the ideas of young people. I think we should encourage them to do that.
Yeah, and they are very much excited to take your ideas and to discuss with you, sir. So,
very nice.
As soon as because of this corona problem, they could not join. Otherwise, they are willing to talk you, and later they want to make some committee for this development, and you can guide us, sir.
Sure.
So, yes, sir. So now, sir, I would like to invite Dr. Lal Rupui, Assistant Professor, Department of Management, and in charge of an IRF for our department, to give a formal vote of thanks. Dr. Lal Rupui.
Thank you, Amit ji. Sir, I feel very, very proud to be able to propose a formal vote of thanks today, especially when we have a speaker like you today. Thank you, sir. We are very, very lucky to have today on today's international webinar, Professor Anil K. Gupta ji, who is a very, very eminent person. So, sir, we are thankful to you for accepting to be the speaker today. Thank you, sir, for bringing forth the much needed topic today. You have intelligently citing examples, real life examples, to bring out the essence of your topic. And your lecture was truly amazing. You have enriched our knowledge by your informative studies and speech. The audiences as well as the panelists have truly benefited from your lecture, sir, today. And we are hoping to hear from you again soon, sir. And I believe the Department of Management will also strengthen the Innovation Club, which we had already established long back ago. Thank you,
wonderful,
sir.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes, sir.
That's my reward for the day.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
I'm so happy to hear that. So happy to hear that.
Okay, sir, thank you. And also, I would like to propose a vote of thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K.R.S. Sambasivarao, for being there and support every webinar and support any academic activity. Sir, thank you for being there today also. And thank you to Sir Dr. Rajkumar Giridhari Singh for handling the question and answer nicely. And thank you. I'm also thankful to Dr. Amit Kumar Singh, who is a friend of you, sir, and who is also the head of the department, for always taking the lead in this kind of webinar and for always helping out with his guidance. Thank you, sir. And again, I would also like to propose a vote of thanks to our engineer, Suraj, for his technical support again. And lastly, but not the least, I am thankful to the audiences today, without whom this webinar could not be a success. Thank you for taking your time out in registering and attending this seminar.
And amazingly, none of them dropped out. I mean, I see the number has remained constant, which is very good. It is amazing.
Yes, sir. Your lecture was very, very intelligent. Also, that's so. Sir, we are hoping to hear from you again soon.
Sure,
thank you so much from my part. Thank you,
all the
sir.
best. Good luck, Amit. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye.
Online